Hello everyone, my name is Lucy and welcome to Books and Brushes. Now today is the February wrap-up, so we look at all the books I read in February. And by all the books, I mean two books. It feels like November all over again. For those of you who don't know, 2 books isn't very many for me, but you know, that's okay. Every now and then you don't read as many books as you usually do. Like I said, back in November I read 2 books and that's not a good amount for me. But both of the books I read were Tahereh Mafi's books in the Shatter Me series, which I have right here. So I read Shatter Me and I'm on Unravel Me, which I'm almost at the end of, and it's almost the end of February, so I'm pretty confident as usual. Yeah, so it's been a very Tahereh Mafi month, and I just thought this is really going to be more of a Tahereh Mafi Shatter Me series review than anything else of what I thought of the series so far. So strap in and let me tell you all about this series and Tahereh Mafi and what I think of it so far. So I knew very little about this before I went into it. I never read anything by Tahereh Mafi before. I've got one of her books signed. I went to one of her book signings. It's the only signing I've ever been to, so it's quite special to me. So I was really curious about what the series was going to be like, especially since it's kind of an older series which is now being there's new books coming out in it, although it was written a while ago. I was curious to see how it would live up to the test of time and what it would be like in nowadays market. So this book had the potential to be very generic dystopian, you know, very 2012 era kind of generic, pumping out the same old stuff. But it was not that, and I was very pleased that it was a bit more unique than that, and it wasn't something I've read before. Sure, it has a few tropey tropes, but nothing I can't handle and nothing I don't enjoy. And yeah, it's quite an interesting one. Something, like I said, that I think has lived up to now. It's not something that I would have liked a few years ago but don't anymore. There's a lot to be said for this series. The biggest thing about this series and Tahereh Mafi for me is her writing. She has a beautiful and very distinct writing style. It's very floral and very descriptive, very otherworldly and just metaphorical. But it works really well. Like, this story has plenty of action and it's intense, and yet she weaves this descriptive writing style into it, and it just all melds really well together. It can be quite hard to do. Those two styles are kind of opposites, so you usually have one or the other. But no, her writing style is really different, and it's hard to put your finger on and describe why. Like I said, it's very otherworldly, very flowery, very majestic, but it works really well in this action story. This writing is unique, and if I were to read another Tahereh Mafi book without knowing the author, I think I could recognise her writing, or at least I definitely would recognise another book in this series purely on the writing alone. And that's pretty good. I think that's cool for an author to be so distinct and unique with their style. The other thing that changes this from a generic dystopian to something on its own is the romance. Now this definitely has a romance. Now a lot of YA action books have a romantic subplot, but this one has not really a subplot, it's very key to the plot. A lot of those YA kind of action books I'm talking about tend to have a subplot where it's like there's a romance, but we can't really delve into that right now because action and war and our romantic problems, we're gonna have to wait. And I quite like that usually because I'm there for the action and the subplot is the subplot. But this one, no, like the romantic subplot is the forefront. It is one of the key attributes of this book. It's like the love story in this is the most important thing to the characters over the war, which is really interesting and well done. And I really love the romance in this. It's a good romance. Not only does that really descriptive writing build into that why the romance is so good, but just the story between these two characters, it could have been insta-lovey, it wasn't. Again, this book had so much potential to be generic and wasn't generic. The romance is like beautiful when they're together and heartbreaking when they're apart. And they are so good together. Like their story builds slowly and they become so close, and there's so many ups and downs, and all the problems they have are external, like the world's pulling them apart, rather than internal kind of conflicts. It's annoying to me in a romance where their entire romantic problems could be solved if they just had one conversation with each other. That can be kind of annoying because it's like you're sitting there reading the book going, you could solve this, just talk to them. But no, like the problems they're having are serious, genuine, and you can understand their problems, and it is like the world is pulling them apart. You're not going to break into the greatest showman, you know, rewrite the stars, but I could. I think the romance is really beautiful in this, and it works being at the forefront of the story. It works, like the action and the intenseness surrounds it, but the heart and the emotions and the feelings are really what drive this book. It's a very intense read because there's action, but the emotions are what make it intense. And I quite like that. Like I said, it's an interesting take, and I just really like what I've read so far. As for the characters, again, I really love the characters. They're all very 3D people. They're not 2D cutouts. They all have their own, again, distinct voices, which is always good to hear so they don't meld together. One of my favourites is Kenji. I mean, I think Kenji was probably going to be the supposed to be favourite character. Like, he's the funny one. He's got that kind of humour that's self-aware, you know, it's self-aware to be funny. And it's like a kind of cheesy funny, but like, he's also quite strong and serious as well. And it's written well, he's a real person, although he's kind of cocky and funny, he's a real guy, and it works. It just works well. I love our main character, she's really interesting, and you really understand her thought process through this book. Very self-aware and kind of intelligent, but also naive and sheltered at the same time. But it's a little bit unrealistic since she's been in isolation for so long that she's kind of sane, although she's not. She's having breakdowns every other day and feeling guilty about it. And relatable, am I right? Yeah, there's something about her that I really kind of understand, and she is a mess, and she knows she's a mess, and she keeps getting reminded she's a mess and having these epiphanies, and I don't know, I think she's a good character. I love Adam, again, for the love interest, he's got to be a good character, and he is. He's a great love interest. And all of the side characters that surround, whether it be James or Castle or Warner, the bad guys are bad. You hate them, which is good. Whether they're side characters or main characters, everyone has a role in this story, and I'm going to say this again, some of the character generic stereotypes had the potential to be same old, read it before, 2D personalities, but they're not. So I don't know how Tamahara Mafi is treading this, could be generic but isn't line, but she's doing it very well. And lastly, we have the plot. Now, I always tend to forget to talk about the plot, but this time I did it on purpose. I wanted to save it till the end. So if you don't want to know anything about this story, or less than what I've told you, if you don't want to know the plot line, then you can just skip to the outro or end the video here, and you don't have to know anymore. I'm going to go into a little bit of detail in the plot, nothing too super spoilery, but again, I know a lot of people like to go into it blind, and that's totally fair. So if that's the end of the video for you, I will see you later, and I'll see you in the next one. But if you want to know all the details about the plot line, let's go. So the plot is about this main character called Juliet, and the world has crumbled to crap. Classic apocalyptic YA dystopian story, and the re-establishment, this kind of tyrannical government has risen up, and everything's controlled and horrible, and the army's super, and etc, etc. But more importantly, our main character Juliet has been locked up in an asylum. She has been locked away almost her entire life. Everyone in her family has abandoned her, including her parents, all because she has a special power. Her touch is lethal. She can torture and kill just by someone touching her skin. And she is completely terrified of herself, and she is full of self-loathing and guilt over what she is able to do. Until she gets a new roommate who manages to break her out of this asylum and land her in something potentially worse, her being in the possession of like this general leader of the army called Warner, and he has plans for her. He wants to use her as a weapon, and she must escape. And what with this love story between her and Adam, what with a rebellion and a whole, you know, rebel group rising up, that's Unravel Me, but she will figure out what she can do, what she can really do with her power, how it can be useful, how to control it, and how to be a person instead of a thing in a cell who's guilty. The apocalyptic world crumbling thing isn't really new, but this story of the asylum and the characters and this war, they all make it what it is. You know, it's taken something, a very thought of idea before, but these characters and the way the storyline develops makes it its own story. It's not copied, or it doesn't really remind me of anything else other than the fact that the world is crumbling, which is basically what a dystopian is. There is a little bit of love triangle-y in this, I guess you could say, with Warner and Adam, but not really. It's not like a cheesy love triangle-y thing, not at all, because she doesn't like Warner. not one bit. Yeah, it's a very interesting take, an interesting story. There are twists and turns I didn't expect, some great plot twists that I did not see coming, and yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I'm halfway through Unravel Me right now. This is Shatter Me, which I've read. So hopefully in the next month, in March, I will be able to read the other two books, which is Ignite Me and Restore Me, I believe. And then I will have had a full Tahara Murphy crash course. Don't think my reading slump is this book's fault. I've just been busy and mentally tired and drained, and I just haven't read as much. And YouTube is a problem. Also, fan fiction. We've discussed this before and I'll say it again. Every time I fall down the fan fiction rabbit hole, I obviously read less actual books. So I've actually read a crap ton more than it sounds like, because I've read a lot of fan fiction that obviously I don't record. If you count fan fiction, it's probably like I've read 4 or 5 books. I hope you enjoyed this mini wrap-up review talk about Tahara Murphy and the Shatter Me series. I know I'm so late to the party, like this is an old series. I've jumped on this bandwagon from the re-release of Restore Me. So if you read this years ago, you're like, yeah Lucy, we've known this for ages. And I'm sorry. But I am catching up, guys. I am really raking in those old time YA dystopians that I missed. Hope you enjoyed my video today, and I will see you not next Wednesday but the week after, since I'm doing every other Wednesday now. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment if you enjoyed. I really love hearing your comments, seriously, every time I read one, and I don't get many, but when I read one, it's like my heart, I can't. I mean, I love this journal, and I hope some of you enjoyed my last video, Trench, because I loved that video so much. I don't think it was very popular, but I don't even care. Like, I loved it. That was my child, and I would rewatch that video, and it's of my face. So I will see you in my next video. Goodbye.